Welcome back, everybody. We're here with a Bacon Decker podcast. We're going to hit you with another part 2 of our kind of getting to know each other and becoming friends podcast series.
Yeah. So, what did you think of the first one? As far as, were you happy with everything you put on the first one?
It's definitely kind of weird and interesting getting back into it and, learning how and what we need to do and talk about and how to start even. That was kind of hard.
No, it was the first podcast we've ever done, so it was trying to learn what to talk about, what was important to talk about, so you guys can understand, because you guys are looking in at our lives without knowing. Some of you guys may know certain things, but then some of you may not know anything at all. So trying to give you guys enough to follow right off the bat is, it's difficult to try to just put your life in, what was it, an hour 15, somewhere there.
Yeah.
To put it into an hour's time, your whole elementary, and not remembering everything, crystal clear, is difficult to do. So we're gonna start middle school right where we left off. Graduated elementary school and went to middle school. So you want to start?
So basically, once I had moved away and I kind of started getting to know my new life down in Woodburn, Kentucky, with my father and my stepmother, I started going into middle school, and that was a whole crazy experience. It was like, for me, I remember going in during the first day, and of course I went to Drake's, so they had all of us gathered in the gym there on the bleachers for the first day, and I walked in during the the national anthem, and that was kind of weird. And I just remember walking in, and it was so full, and
Yeah, because you went from one elementary school's worth of people to what, 4? Middle school brought 4 elementary schools together. So not only did you have to start school in a new school, somewhere you've never been before, at an age that you're really just figuring out who or what you're interested in, what you're going to probably do middle school, senior, or high school years. That's when you start really learning what you're interested in. But you also have to learn, 3 other schools worth of kids. So these kids have the same situation you are with your kids from your elementary school.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you've got this whole broad spectrum of people now you've got to get to know from, and now you're combining different socioeconomic backgrounds by a lot, people coming from this area and this area and this area. So it's definitely intimidating, especially, at least from my perspective, when I walked in and all the bleachers were full.
I was always nervous. Even throughout the years, I was always nervous to walk into the gym. I actually ended up staying in the cafeteria in the mornings. I didn't go to the gym because as soon as you walk through those doors, everybody was looking at who walked in the gym. So I was always nervous. So there's moments when you would have to go to the gym for a meeting or something before school started, and you had the 7th and 8th grade in the gym too. So you had the older kids that you didn't know at all on one side, and you had the 7th graders on the other side. At least for us, So
it's the same.
Because I know some schools they have 9th grade in middle school as well, or they go right in
6th grade in the middle school.
Yeah, 6th grade.
I know Bowling Green, that's how they do it.
Yeah, so for us it was 7th grade was when we started middle school. I actually remember before even going into middle school, the going in and meeting the teachers and learning the school. You had the what is it?
It's that orientation.
Orientation, yeah, orientation day where you learn who your teacher's going to be, new people, and you're in this school that you've never been to before. So right away I was nervous. I don't know why. Something changed between elementary school and middle school for me. Because as soon as I started middle school, I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
I went to a middle school, and then within the first quarter, I switched middle schools. I went from Warren East Middle to Henry F. Moss Middle, which was in town more or less. I ended up going to where my mom was on address. I was still going to my dad and mom's at the time.
Yeah.
But I was using her address. Yeah. So, which I did spend most of my time at my mom's at this point. I enjoyed being with my mom, and we had a closer connection than me and my dad did at the time. And I I got into Xbox then. That was like we got an Xbox I think 7th grade. And then we didn't get internet until I want to say almost 8th grade. So like we actually played Modern Warfare 2 and Halo 3 offline, my brother and I. Yeah. That was all we had for the game. We had 2 games for a year, just because we couldn't afford anything else. And so that really is what changed me, I think. So when I went, let's go back. So like when I went from Warren East, I went from talking a bunch, being sociable, and when I went to Moss, that changed.
Well, there was a completely new group of kids out there.
But I wanted it too, though. So like when I switched, I want it to be that way. So when I started at Moss, I just want to say Moss because that's what we called it. I didn't talk. I didn't talk to anybody. I said maybe 10 words a day, and that included like with the teachers. I showed up, went to the classes, and I did my own thing, and I like that because I didn't want to be involved in school. Even at this young of an age, I wasn't interested in anything school had to offer. I was just there because I had to be.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell a quick story just so we can kind of see some, because it has a lot to do with my kind of growing up years. Gotcha. And a thing that I kind of relate to, kind of a focal point of where everything changed for me, like the path I was going. So when I moved with my dad and my stepmom, get new friends out there at Rich Pond Elementary, and I went to spend the night at one of my friend's house, and he had rented Call of Duty 3 on the PlayStation 2. And
it's so crazy to think you had to rent a game for PlayStation 2. You know, now it's all digital, so you can just like download a game and play it right then and there. But I remember back then, Blockbuster or
Hollywood Video.
Yeah, Hollywood Video, and you would get these games, and sometimes they would not even work just because like somebody else had traded them in. But yeah, I remember it was like $5 to rent a game a night or something like that.
Well, so I went over to his house and spent the night. Well, I never really played shooter games before, and we talked about that in the previous episode, how I wasn't really, into the whole violence. And just because I never got exposed to it.
I didn't know that. I thought you were into it even through elementary school. Yeah. I mean, we would throw throwing rocks at each other and stuff. That was like my Nerf guns at school, Like it was something fun.
Well, it wasn't that I was never exposed to it, but it was it never really caught my eye at the time. But of course, I did love history, and I've always loved history and, the social studies. So when I went over to my friend's house and he had this game, he's like, hey, you want to play this? And I was like, cool, I'll play it. And it of course takes place during World War II, and my, of course, only connection to that at this point in my life is I knew that my great grandfather had served during World War II. So that's the only thing I really ever knew about it at the time. So I play this game and I'm like, man, this is really cool and interesting. And so I go back, to my house and I'm like, man, that was a really cool game. I kind of want to play more of those games. So when my birthday comes around, I get birthday money and I go out and I buy the first 2 Call of Duties for the PlayStation 2. So Call of Duty
games too.
Finest Hour and Call of Duty Big Red 1, right? Both fantastic games. The second one more so, right? And that second one really, really got me into World War II, and that kind of was like, all right, well, I'm going to start, looking into this, and
as far as war and guns and stuff like that,
and the military in general. And I watch all these movies and stuff, and so I get really interested in the military. And so going into 7th grade, I've got this idea of like, well, there's a JROTC program here at the school I kind of want to get into. So
did you join ROTC first year?
Yeah, so in 7th grade I was in the ROTC program towards like I'd say the second semester, because I don't remember doing it when I first got to the school. Of course, I was still nervous.
You could change them though, couldn't you?
What do you mean?
You could change I guess there were electives even in middle school. Couldn't you? Like, hey, I didn't want to do this one anymore. I could switch.
Well, so the ROTC program for the middle schoolers was different from the high schoolers because for middle school it wasn't an official subject, whereas in high school it's like a class you take.
Right.
Excuse me. I got a tickle in my throat. But we were allowed to participate and learn, because they were kind of fostering us to start taking it in high school. And this is before like South Warren was a school, and I would eventually go there.
Right.
But so I was joining that program toward the second semester, and I'm kind of getting interested, and my friends around me are also interested in it. So my friend Blake and my friend Dustin, they were interested in the military, and so being over there at this school, or this this new experience for me moving down there and getting to know these new people, it put me in an environment where I was no longer into the stuff I was into in elementary school, where I was not on the path at all towards the military,
right.
into maybe this is what I want to do with my life.
Right.
And so that's kind of where my beginnings in middle school.
I guess I was introduced to it when I was a kid. I mentioned that I thought you were always into it, but I went back and I thought about it. Hunter and I played Twisted Metal. We played the Call of Duty 3 on PlayStation 2.
Excellent game, by the way.
Yeah, and we did play some shooter games growing up. So I guess that's what kind of got us to the Nerf guns and to the BB guns, and then we actually did paintball guns for like half a year. We bought them, we never played them, and then we got airsoft guns, and that's when. And at this time, 7th grade is when I bought my first airsoft gun. I remember me and Hunter both buying them from Walmart. His Crossman was the only thing we knew. At the time, we didn't know that there was high maintenance guns out there for airsoft. It was a sport, and at that time it may have not really been a sport. I don't know.
It definitely was not as popular back then.
Paintball was the thing to do. If you wanted to play like a competitive shooting at each other thing, it was paintball. Paintball was the thing to go out and try to play against each other. But yeah, that was so I went to Moss, and I automatically had to have an elective, or extra class or whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah.
I had art at Warren East Middle, and I was like, I hated that. It was like we weren't doing art, we were learning art, and I did not enjoy that. I was like, I don't care about what these people drew. I just want to draw for myself.
Yeah.
And so I didn't go back to art class. I actually joined band, and in 7th and 8th grade, I did. I was not wanting to be socially into anything, but I joined band for some reason because I wanted to learn an instrument. Music was really important to me, especially at this time. 7th, 8th grade is when I really got into musics that I wasn't really allowed to listen to. I remember getting into harder rock and harder music that was more emotional or aggressive. There was more feelings in it than just the 107.1 or something like everybody listened to it, the pop culture. And my parents did not know I listened to that kind of stuff. But band was kind of my way. It's like I really liked music, so I didn't know how to play any instruments. I didn't know how to play any type of instrument at this point. So they take me in there, and they're like, well, you want to try this? You want to try this? And I was like, well, maybe the drums or something. Well, we already have percussion. So I was like, okay, well, that's like the first one every guy wants to play. And also I thought it'd be one of the easier ones to learn. And then they even had me try a flute, like a guy my size. Even at that time, I was like, a flute? I didn't think about it. I was like, sure, I'll try the flute. So I tried it. I hated it because you have to like hold it like just at the right angle to make the sound. I was not good at that. So they tried a trombone or a trumpet, I think it was. I think I tried a trumpet. I couldn't get my lips to buzz right. I probably just because I was nervous at this point. They put you in the studio room and you try to practice with it, and they ask you how you felt playing it. I was like, nah, I can't do it. I don't like that. I'm like, well, have you ever thought about trying to play a clarinet? I didn't even know what a clarinet was. I was like, I'll try it. And I don't know what it was, but I was decent enough that I was like, yeah, I'll try this. This seems simple enough to follow. You had keys, and it was you just blow into it and you press the right keys at the same time. So at this time, I was playing Guitar Hero 3 on the Xbox. We'd gotten that for Christmas too, and I was like, you hit the buttons and you hit the strum at the same time. So I guess clarinet kind of went hand in hand with the type. So I played clarinet for 7th, 8th grade. We had parades that we went in, freezing cold parades. But I loved it. I loved band a lot. I was 3rd clarinet by 8th grade, which means I was like 3rd best of the clarinets, which I thought was pretty good considering I hadn't touched any instruments. Like I was proud of that.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing outgoing I did in middle school. At this time we met again. We started the friendship. Our buddy Hunter actually went to Moss with me, and he seen me walking down the hallway, and he's like, Tyler, what are you doing here? I was like, I switched schools. And he goes, add me on Xbox. At this time I didn't have internet, so I had to wait until we got Xbox Gold. And we actually did the 3-month trial. So 3 months I had it. And at that point, I was like, "Well, did you ever figure out?" Like, I was like, "Oh yeah, William's on Xbox. Like William's, like just add him on Facebook and stuff." This is when we started getting into Facebook, Xbox. Like we really got into the social media. Like that's when we started into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember adding you on Facebook and kind of just start talking about. I mean, we really had to relearn each other completely. Yeah. Like I didn't know just anything about you, and like the memory I had of us was just like, oh, he was my best friend in elementary school. That's like I don't really remember any like details about our friendship. It's just that's who we hung out with.
Yeah, because we had that big group of friends there while we were in elementary school.
Yeah,
we all played with each other and hung out. So yeah, no, I absolutely remember that. And to me, at least from my experience of reconnecting, with not just you and Hunter, but with everybody, it was like, because I felt so isolated moving away like that, and I'm sure you felt the same, when you moved away.
Yeah, it was a huge change. I just, my whole personality changed when I switched.
But yeah, so I just remember, I was like, oh, I'm so excited, and I would stay up late and talk to everybody and just getting, to know everybody again. And I think with Facebook coming along the way it did, it really helped me kind of like, maintain those friendships that I'd lost.
Yeah, and rekindle them too.
Yeah.
Like restart. Maybe you've changed completely and you start talking to somebody like, no, I'm not into anything that they're into now. So like, I don't know why we were friends. And then you have other ones you're like, yeah, man, that's totally cool. That's exactly what I'm into now. And that's kind of what happened with us. Is so at this time you said you got into the Call of Duty stuff and the guns and you're like interested in the, like maybe this is what I want to do with my life. At the same time, I just enjoyed them. I enjoyed shooters. I enjoyed playing with Hunter at home.
Of course, I didn't have an Xbox 360 yet, so I still only had the PlayStation 2, but I knew everybody else was playing online, and then I was like, well, let me check this out real fast. So I look and I see there's an Ethernet port on the back of a PlayStation 2, and all the games say, like the Call of Duty games I had say that there is multiplayer on there. So I was like, well, why am I not playing online?
So you actually played online on PlayStation 2? Yeah. I did not. That was before me. We didn't even know that was a feature, I guess, at the time as kids. My dad did not let us play online or anything, which we weren't allowed to play much of the Call of Duty. We had to turn it down because there was a lot of language. So at Dad's, we actually didn't really even have the voices playing. We just played the game. So we heard the game. We didn't hear them talking. So we just kind of played through it shooting at Germans.
Yeah, so getting to kind of, because of course I felt so left out, I didn't get a whole lot of like gifts a lot of the time, and I'm sure you didn't either.
No, it was very, very small.
Birthday and Christmas.
Like one big gift.
Yeah.
That's usually what we got.
So, in the beginning of middle school, I didn't have that Xbox 360, and then I can't remember exactly when it was. Either the Christmas for
it had to be in seventh grade.
It
had to be seventh grade because by eighth grade, you had invited me over to your house for your birthday party right before freshman year. And by that point, we were playing Xbox.
Oh,
together.
yeah. Okay, so then definitely...
It had to be...
Because I do remember being in middle school and we were still trying to figure out, because Hunter would get those Xbox Live Gold trial cards.
Yeah,
we would go for that.
We actually bought them for you.
Gold.
Yeah, we bought them for you. I remember that for sure.
Yeah, my parents wouldn't get it for me.
When we first... I think your first birthday, that's what I bought you, is I bought you a gold membership for your birthday. And that was my gift to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that... Yeah.
And that's what started, because I was like, man, you need to get Xbox Live. Yeah, I will. I didn't know that you were not able to get it. So I was like, you know what? That's what I'll give him for his birthday. And so I took my allowance at the time, and I bought you, I think it was a 3-month card. And then as it got closer to running out, like Hunter, my brother and I, we were like, oh, we got to get him a card. We got to get some kind of card for William. So, like, we would get the free months or something. You were just bumming. Yeah. You were bumming month to month
and that,
Xbox
crazy.
Live.
And I'll say this till my very last breath, without my friends, I don't think I would be as fortunate in life as I have, and I think that's why I've maintained these friendships that I have is because you guys have always been there for me,
It was a different kind of friendship. Yeah, we looked out for each other. It was like, so-and-so don't have this. Well, I don't mind to buy them this. And even during airsoft, we shared guns a lot of times. If we had an extra gun, we're like, oh, mine broke. And they're like, oh, we'll just use this one. We didn't care.
We shared ammo, and magazine. It didn't matter.
Just bring everything you got. That was like the thing we did.
And I think that was awesome. Just because we got to have everybody over, and especially when our families were so
Friendships
okay
like that
with
are
it.
rare now. You don't have people that. I mean, you have one person, or like I think everybody has that one person. They're like, yeah, I have one friend like that,
Yeah.
and the rest of them are just friendly. Like they're not acquaintances, but they're just hangout friends.
Yeah.
But
And
you've got one friend that
nowadays,
really.
So many kids, they just sit there on their electronic devices.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
hang out and they might have conversation or show each other funny videos, but they don't do what we were doing. You
No.
know, and especially, we'll get into high school here in a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but when we were, I mean, it was either every other Saturday or every Saturday sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
where we would get together, we'd get the whole group out there, and we would just play airsoft.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, like, all day long.
Yeah. I mean, I only had one camping experience before us hanging out there playing airsoft.
And I'd never been camping before that.
And it was with my dad. So we were, it was back in elementary school, but we hung out, or we went to camping on the river, on the sandbank in the middle of the river. The river had gone down real low, and we parked the boat, and we actually camped in the middle of the river on the sand, or on the rock, gravel, whatever you want to call it, at the bottom of the river, where it got low enough. And he did everything. So like my brother and I, we didn't know anything about camping. So he's like started the fire, and we were there to roast marshmallows and hot dogs and just camping experience, as kids. So we were throwing rocks, we'd fish on the side of the river and stuff like that while we camped. So going into our camping, I guess we should start. We met for the first time after 8th grade. That was your birthday party. Was the first time we met. That was during the summer.
And we played airsoft.
Yeah. Well, did we?
Yeah, because
I don't know if I didn't bring anything. I didn't bring any guns or anything, I don't believe. The first, because I remember throwing the stick. Like, that was what we were doing.
Maybe we didn't play airsoft. I think we did just go out into the woods. Maybe.
I think we went out. I honestly think we went out there the first time on that property, your pastor's property.
Yeah, so, and by the way, I want to just shout out my pastor real fast, Pastor Tim. He was so nice. Him and his father, so he owned the house, and then his father owned the land behind it. Mm-hmm. That's where his cattle, he kept his cattle, and they were so.
I don't know what we would have done if we hadn't had that land.
Yeah,
like so many memories.
Like
in
when
high
I
school.
say that land that we got to play on was crucial to like our childhood. Like.
Yeah. Because we probably wouldn't have. We wouldn't have had nowhere to go. That was the only place that any of us really knew, land-wise.
So there was so much to play.
And it was convenient too. It was right down the road from where you lived. So we literally walked. What was it, about a mile?
Not even. Like half a mile.
Half a mile to the land.
To the land, and then we'd go out there, we'd play, and then we'd come back at the end of the day. Walk back, and that was that. Or, sometimes my mom would drop us off down there.
It's before the time of people were afraid to let people on their land too, because like now they're like, you guys can't, because if you get hurt, then your parents could sue me.
Yeah.
Like it was before that, so there was never
we were
no
super
thought.
close to because of course that's our pastor, and Woodburn was a very small community.
But we had 16, 20 guys out there sometimes.
Yeah.
We didn't know all of them that well. Their parents could have very well, if they went out there and broke a leg, they could have sued them. So like he was very fortunate and very nice to let us, like I said, I don't know where we would be if we hadn't had that land to play.
I can't say
so many experiences.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because the first night we camped out there, it was just you and I. We were like, well, let's try this out.
Well, I think the first night we camped, we also had Hunter out there too. Because you remember,
it was just us, I thought.
Well, you remember when we got stuck out there. I definitely remember Hunter being there because he had the job of starting the fire, and we had to set up tents.
Yeah.
And
it got dark fast.
And so my dad, right? So it was pitch black out there.
No camping experience. Yeah. We had no idea what we were doing.
So it's pitch black out there. We're like, in the dark. We're scared to death because we're still kids. Not even a bit of courage.
Or 8th grade. You're still not confident in yourself at all.
We're sitting out there. It's dark. Hunter can't light the fire. The tents aren't set up, so
we can't see.
Yeah, we can't see anything, because we were like, kind of hanging around.
We were hanging out. We were having fun, and then all of a sudden
gathering sticks and stuff for the fire, and the fire wasn't started.
Because you're in the trees too, so it got darker even faster in the woods than it would have been if you'd been out in the open.
And we were in a valley there. So the sun was gone. And we we had to call my dad to come out there and get help us out. So he comes out there with his flashlight and finds
And we could hear the coyotes and stuff
Uh-huh.
around. Like they were in the woods with us, and like there's no fire. We were like the worst case scenario. We're gonna die. We've seen like horror movies and
Yeah.
stuff. Like
So that's what we're thinking.
yeah,
We're
like
"Oh,
the
man,
fear
we're
was
gonna
feeding
die."
into us that we're like, this is not good. We're gonna die out here. Like tell your dad to come get us. Like
Yeah.
we were already like, nah, we're out of here. We want to leave. And
But
your
luckily,
dad.
my dad was like, "Hey, let me just get this started for you guys." So he starts the fire for us and gets everything going, and we ended up staying out there, and it ended up being a pretty good time. But yeah, that was a crazy night.
And we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about it to any of the guys when we first came out. But both of us knew, as we were team leaders, is what we called ourselves. We were the leaders of getting everybody together and playing out there. Both of us took that experience and realized y'all can play airsoft, but we got to start a fire. Like we knew.
Yeah.
We got to do this every time. Like y'all don't want to be out here without no fire. Like we're not calling his dad again. We're not going to be embarrassed like that
that
again.
was so embarrassing.
Yeah, it was terrible. As kids, we're like, man, we were just idiots. Why did we do that? And I'm sure he won't forget to this day having to come out
I
there.
talked to him about it before. He's like, that was just so funny, man.
But yeah, your first birthday punctured my ear.
Yeah, we were
with a
walking
stick.
back there.
Yeah, we were just being stupid. So there's a canyon. There's like a
It was
cliff-
like a cliffside.
cliffside. 20 feet, 25 feet
Yeah,
maybe.
probably 25.
Yeah, and we were throwing stuff off of it. Well, I took this stick that was probably longer, 4 foot or something. I chuck it off. Well, it's curved. So when I chucked it, it hit the tree that I was standing next to and boomeranged into my ear. I got so lucky that, it hit the front of my ear instead of my actual ear, and I got so lucky. But yeah, I remember just hitting myself and you freaking out. Like, man, we need to clean that. We need to go home and clean that. Like, you were definitely the mother of the group. You're like, that looks pretty bad.
I felt
I mean,
bad
it was
'cause-
running down my ear too. And so yeah, you probably thought, man, my parents are never gonna let me have anybody else over. Like, this is bad. That was the first experience we had.
Yeah, that was
Meeting
nothing.
again.
You weren't going to get to come over anymore.
Yeah.
You got hurt.
Yeah.
But of course, being,
My parents had 2 boys, so they, boys be boys. So bleeding was not, as long as I wasn't,
Actually,
extremely
yeah.
hurt from something that happened there. That I did it myself. It's not like somebody whacked me over the head with a stick. I did it myself. So yeah, that my parents completely understood. There was no fear of me not getting to come back, and I think you panicked just because you didn't know my parents at the time. So like you thought I wouldn't get to come over again. But and I think after that, when we were out there in the woods, we were like, you know what, this would be a cool place to play airsoft. And I believe the next summer, I think is when we
Really started doing
our
that.
first summer of high school, between freshman and sophomore year, is when we
really started
played
getting into it.
airsoft. Yeah, and it was
And-
always hot, man, always hot.
Do you remember when because it was me, you, we all went out to Bad Karma, or not Bad Karma. It was the other one, the one up here, Blackside or something like that.
Yeah, Black Side. Oh man,
And that was
your
our first,
birthday.
Like, Milsim event.
That was
It
your
for my
birthday.
birthday.
I was so unhealthy. I'm still unhealthy, but like that was. I played Xbox all the time, so I was like, "Oh, let's play airsoft. Airsoft's cool." Well, Black Site was all uphill. It was nothing but a hill, and I remember going up it once and be like, "I can't do that again. I cannot go down that hill and get shot and have to respawn at the top of the mountain." I thought a mountain, like it's a hillside. Like I was like, I couldn't do it, so I actually sat out the rest of it. I sat under the tree and cooled off because I was unhealthy. Like I was wanting to play airsoft, but I didn't do anything physical outside of airsoft.
Yeah.
So. It's your birthday, so like we've maybe played a couple hour games on the weekends
Yeah.
at the field or at your pastor's land before this. So I had no training whatsoever. So I remember being miserable. Like it was not a fun experience for me. I was like, maybe airsoft ain't for me at this time. Like that was,
Yeah.
I really doubted. I was like, I can't do that again. And then we went to Bad Karma, and that was a completely different experience.
When was that? Was that
I don't
was
remember.
closer to senior year? I want to say though.
I want to say sophomore year. Because junior year, I went back to Warren East. See,
So were you still going to?
So I went to Warren Central for freshman and sophomore year, and I left my first semester of junior year to go back to Warren East. So you have that first, second, and third summer, which we could have went because it was It was a summer event, I believe.
It was definitely in the summer because it was hot outside. We were in,
That was rough. That was so
clothing.
much fun, though. That was such a different experience. So I feel like we're kind of jumping around.
Better organized.
Yeah. And at this point, we had been more experienced with airsoft too.
Yeah, we
got
knew more about the guns and the rules and all that stuff.
Thomas at BG Airsoft at the time, like we were upgrading our guns every weekend. We would play almost every weekend. We would play at your house, and a gun would break or a piece would break, and it would like screw the whole day. And yeah, we'd take it, get it fixed, and like a couple weeks later, we'd have the gun back, and then something else would break. I remember my gun specifically. I bought a $100 airsoft gun from BG Airsoft that was completely plastic. Like the classic Army, I think is what it was called, starter M4, all plastic. And my size, I fell, or if I hit it on the tree, I broke something on it. I was always breaking something on it.
Well, and you buy those cheaper guns, and you're out because of course we didn't have a whole lot of money.
Yeah, like $100 was a lot to me as a kid, or middle school. That was a lot of money.
You wait till you got like a gift of money, and then you trade in your airsoft gun, and then also take that gift money and you get a new airsoft gun and supplies with it.
Yeah.
And so we just had to keep building on that every so often.
And I remember
everything.
We did, and then I even remember Hunter Foster was the first one to get a job out of our friend group,
yeah,
our close friend group, and he worked at Papa John's, and he got pretty good money for what a 16-year-old, like he was making really good money.
Yeah.
So he went and bought him, I think it was like a $400 gun. So we
he
thought,
bought, like,
wow,
great
that
gun.
like we're gonna get screwed.
So we always the whole kit.
Yeah, we were like Hunter Foster's got to be on our team because he had the vest, the
bags,
the gun, and we were still using. I want to say some of us were still using Crossman guns at this time.
Yeah, some of us.
So you had that guy out there with a $400 airsoft gun, and then all of us rocking like $40 spring action loaded rifles from Walmart. I mean,
yeah, dude.
Which we still had a blast. It didn't matter how much money you could spend. So Hunter was like, I want something bigger and better. He was like, I want this, or have you seen this? And I remember the videos we would see of like guys having mini guns and
the crazy stuff.
Yeah, and even the air powered ones, the Polar Stars and stuff. That was like, wow, $1,000. $1,000 to us was like we're rich at that point,
And it gets to the point where you're kind of like, well, why are they spending so much money on this equipment? And if you really have a passion for the hobby, and the sport.
I still have all my stuff. I refuse to sell it.
Eventually, and I'm thinking this summer, hopefully we can.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe get down there and play a game. Of course, we do work, and that might get in the way, but sometime we're going to have to be able to.
I fell out of it.
Of course, we split ways, and we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are. Roll it back to high school. We got to keep it at least high school level for this one, I think. This one's just flowing better, and I think both of us are getting these ideas flowing, and we're thinking of this that led to this, and we don't realize how much space was really between those.
All of this is
events.
over a span of several years. You're talking 8th grade all the way up to our senior year of high school.
Yeah,
we're experiencing all this stuff. We're getting our licenses, and there's so much going on. But airsoft was really a staple.
That's what held us together. That's what held all of us together. It gave us a reason
to come together.
Yeah.
It gave us a reason, to build our friendship. And we didn't just play airsoft, of course, because I come over to your house, you come over to my house, we watch movies, play games. And
for the most part, even your parents at that time were like, "Oh, he's our adopted child." Like, I remember the first time I came over after your birthday party. I don't remember when it was just a random weekend. First thing we did was move a tanning bed.
Yeah.
So I was this big, at the time I was
you're still
muscular enough to help you guys move something. So like, Tyler, will you help us move this? I was like, yeah, sure, I can move anything. And I moved a lot with my mom and my dad, like moving back and forth a bunch. So moving furniture was my thing.
Yeah.
So we moved the tanning bed was the first thing they did, and then your dad I think made the joke because we gotta have Tyler more often because like he
he's
helps
always
out
doing something, especially moving around things.
Yeah, and I was always willing to help. I was never one of those kids like, I don't go to William's house because they make me move stuff. And I was like, no, sure, I don't care.
Because it never took like a long time. Like we'd get moved, and then it was just a running joke with us, like what are we moving today?
But Tyler's over. You got to move anything?
Yeah.
But I remember on the weekends we'd come over, we'd watch movies, we would get a pizza, or at this time we didn't drive. Freshman year, sophomore year, we hadn't turned 16. I remember for sure when you got your license, I was afraid of driving. I got my license at 16. I got my permit at 16.
Yeah.
I did not have a vehicle, and I was afraid of driving. I didn't start driving until I got my first job when I turned 18. I did not practice driving before then. I was afraid to get in the seat. As soon as I started driving, I was fine with it. Love driving now. Like, I love it. But then, I don't know, something feared, like I was just afraid of wrecking or getting hurt or dying.
Yeah, some people definitely are. And I remember, because I jumped right into it. My parents
We could have had a terrible wreck, though. You remember us driving? We were so stupid. When you had your car at 16, we would go and get pizza or something from Franklin. And we had the music blaring, and we were like, I was on my phone and stuff. No, not at all. And, that road is not a safe road. Like,
it's 31W.
Yeah. We're very lucky, for sure, in a lot of reasons. But...
I'm not saying like I was an irresponsible driver.
No, you were a good driver.
You're so inexperienced.
Yeah.
Anything could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't.
There was moments when I don't remember us going there and back. Like, I just remember us getting there and us getting home. Yeah. So, like, there's a blur of that, like, oh, we made it safely. Like, that didn't come across our minds.
And, of course, you're young and stupid, so you don't care, or think about your own safety.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do remember our trips, and I was like, so happy, because my parents always pushed it. They were like, even before I turned 16, or
because you had to practice driving for 6 months before I could ride with you.
Yeah.
So like
so I was just they were always like, hey, you want to drive? You want to drive?
You were forced to in a lot of ways. And my parents were like, no, you take your time.
I wanted to get in the driver's seat because that was something I was looking forward to. I was always looking forward to driving, and so they let me do it, and they got me in practice, and I got in there. And I passed my driving test the first time, and I got that intermediate, and then we were hanging out. I'll come up here, and I get you, or, whatever, and we go and, pick stuff up, go into town, and do whatever.
Because you had to drive your dad to Bad Karma, right? When we played Airsoft, you drove there.
I did, yeah.
So that was, like, during your training process, so that must have been... It must have been junior year. Yeah, right. Yeah. And that was right before I moved schools again.
And then he left, he was going to come at the end of the day.
Yeah. Because we were there all day.
Yeah.
It was an all-day experience. If you've never played a MilSim event or anything like that, and you're into, shooter games or anything like that, definitely give it a shot. You don't have to have the craziest gear. We did not. My gun was broke. Yeah. I didn't even know it was broke until midway through. It was misfeeding. And so there's multiple times I probably wouldn't have been hit or whatever if I had been able to shoot the guy, but my gun was malfunctioning at the time, and midway through my gun broke. So like I actually midway through I had to switch out. I think I used just my sidearm, I believe. I had my 1911 at the time, the Elite Force 1911,
which was a good one.
Oh, yeah, wonderful. Like that was my gun go-to. Loved it.
Yeah.
Best durable gun I think I've owned is that 1911. I ran it through the dirt so many times, and it was full metal except for the handle. But yeah, that was my go-to gun. So my rifle at the time was broken.
It wasn't that wasn't that good of a rifle, but that pistol, that was a good pistol.
Even now, I think people still use it a lot. I think it's still a notable gun to use for a sidearm, and it was affordable.
Yeah, and it was cool because it blew back.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Blowback. Yeah, you had to have it where it shot back. That was always what we went for.
Mm-hmm. We tried to get it as realistic as we could. And that event at Bad Karma was probably one of the most fun time.
Mm-hmm. I wish we had cameras back then. I wish we had the GoPros and stuff like we ended up doing. Right before we graduated, you had a GoPro, I thought, wasn't it? You borrowed it from
a friend of mine.
Yeah, one of the guys we played with had a GoPro, and you filmed a couple videos, which I think they're still on YouTube right now, aren't they?
No, I shut that.
Oh,
down,
you did?
So.
So, but I remember it got tons of views because just filming airsoft for the people that were there, loved to see different perspectives.
To watch it, and it obviously wasn't the best edited video, but you could see everything pretty clearly, and it was in POV because I had it on my helmet.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing. And then graduation happened, and I think anybody will say when you graduate high school, your whole world does another flip.
Yeah, and of course
you realize that everything you've done up to this point is kind of like whatever.
You thought
your hobbies and your goals in life, and then it's like, well, now you go to work every day.
Now life is actually coming. Some people go off to college. You went into the workforce. And
I knew.
Went off to the military.
I knew right away going into high school that I had no goals whatsoever to do anything in college. I took small power. I took construction classes in ag. I joined FFA my freshman year, and I was a chairman for 2 years in FFA. I went to camp, and then I dropped out of that when I was switched back to Warren East as a junior, because I wanted another fresh start. I don't know why. What made me want to just I got to a point where I was just bored. I was like, I want to change everything. I wanted to start fresh again. So junior year, I was like, I had taken all of the guy classes. I'd taken small power, ag, welding, construction. I took all of those, and so the only electives I had left, which I had to have something or ag related to stay in FFA, was greenhouse 1. I had to start the flower classes, classes that, as a guy, I just was not into. I don't care about plants. I was doing all these hands-on experiences, and then I go to learning about plants. I was like, I'm not into this. So I stepped down as a chairman that year, and then I just really wasn't enjoying my classes I had daily. And that was when I started missing school a bunch. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to change. I changed schools myself. I walked into the front office and told them that my address had changed and that I wanted to go back to Warren East, which it did. So I just was going to use my grandparents' address, where we're at now. At the time, it was my grandparents' house, not my house. But I told them that was my address now, and they literally unenrolled me without my parents there. They said, okay, sign this, say that your address is here, and you'll start there. Well, the problem I had was I was not in my grandparents' custody. So they had unenrolled me from school. I was off a week from school because they would not allow me to start at Warren East until I was in my grandparents'. They weren't my guardian. So at this time, my dad was, my mom was, but I had to be at the residence to be
moved in.
Right. So my grandparents had to get guardianship of me to be enrolled in Warren East. So I sat at home for a week, unenrolled from high school, because I didn't realize that we didn't know that.
Yeah.
So here I am, unenrolled from school. I pretty much dropped out for a week.
Yeah.
So I just sat at home and played Xbox all week until I was allowed to go back to school. Because I was like, I just want to start back at school. Why is that a big deal?
Yeah.
And so we got switched over, and I started back at Warren East, and all the kids that knew me from elementary school and that one quarter of middle school was like, oh, you're back. Yeah. A bunch of the guys where'd you go? I never seen those people again. When I left middle school, I didn't talk to any of them again. I didn't have Facebook enough to talk to them. I didn't want to have any connections with anybody from there. I wanted to start fresh. So going back, I made new friends there that were also into airsoft. And I just started over fresh again. And I went to the ag classes there, but I didn't join FFA. So I literally was just trying to get through high school. I knew I didn't want to go to college. So I was like, let's just get through it. So junior year I had FFA for 2 classes. I took 2 electives of FFA that weren't offered at Moss, at Warren Central. So I took 2 of them for my electives. And then senior year I took a construction class for trade school. It was like a half a day. It was at trade school. So I took a class that was 2.5 hours long, 3 hours long, I guess it was. And I loved it. And that was really the main reason I continued to go to school as a senior. I missed 55 days as a senior. I refused to go to school. I hated it. I went once a week. I would do my work from the week before, go Monday, turn it all in, and then repeat that over and over. Wow. I got my work, and I did it all at home, which shows that it's kind of broken. It shouldn't have been that easy for me to. I passed with all A's and B's except one class. And that was because it was a hands-on class. English was book reports and stuff. At the time, I started working as a senior when I turned 18, so it was in December. From there, I just didn't go to school. I wanted to work. I knew right away when I got my first check, I was like, this is cool. This is what I've always wanted to do, was make money.
Make your own money.
And it does run in the family for sure. My dad has always been money-driven, do the best he can to provide for us and to better his life, because he grew up poor and he knew he didn't want that lifestyle. And so myself and my brother as well now, both of us are gung-ho for the money. That is what we wake up for is like, how can we make more money? How can we better ourselves job wise?
Yeah.
And that's always been, and that's what started, like out of high school, that's what I was going for. Yeah. I didn't care about high school. I didn't care about college. All these kids were doing these trade school or like college classes.
Yeah, college classes.
And I remember getting calls from the guidance counselor like, hey, you can apply for this. I mean, I passed with a 22 on my ACT. I didn't study. I didn't try to do the ACT. I went in one time to take the ACT and I got a 22. Yeah. So, you know, if I pushed myself, I probably would have done a lot better. I would have had more higher academics. But I wasn't interested in it. So, I mean, I remember getting calls and like, well, you could go and apply here, or you could get this loan, or you can go to this college. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to college. I'm not interested in it. I want to start working. And that's what I did. So, I mean, what'd you do? Like, by the time you got out of high school, I guess.
Well, so, like, in high school, and my father was way more, you know, because he started college when he was, 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And then he dropped out, because, of course, I came along and he was married, and he was just like, all right, I just need to get a job and start working. So he really and still regrets that, to this day, that he didn't continue on with it. So,
I think at that time you realize you don't have that drive. Like, all you can see is your family. Yeah. I think that my dad did the same thing. He went strictly into working, and then he had to go back and go to college later on. Mm-hmm. When he had a full-time job, us at an older age, and more work to keep us, busy. Yeah. He had to go back to college as well. And he, honestly, I'm sure he would say, I wish I'd done it earlier and gotten it over with, instead of having to jumbo it all together.
Mm-hmm. So, my dad, he always enforced, like, you need to do good in school. He's like, son, I need you to focus on school, and I need you to do well, because, you're going to want to go to college, and get your education. And that's what he always enforced on me. He's like, and when I got up to working age, 16 years old, and I was driving and stuff like that, he's like, I'll pay for the gas. He's like, I'll, let you have a cell phone, and I'll pay the bill. You just need to do well in school. Mm-hmm. He's like, because I want you to be set up for success when you go to college. He's like, if you can do that for me, I'll take care of everything. Not college-wise, but, he was hoping that I would do so well in school that I would get a scholarship and all that. So he was really like, I want you to focus in school. He's like, stay away from the girls, focus on doing your homework and doing well in school, and, focus on video games and all that other stuff later. He's like, do well in school. So that was always instilled in me. So in high school, I was always taking, like freshman year, I took AP class, AP Human Geography. Mm-hmm. I didn't do so hot on that AP exam. I got, I think, a 2 out of 5, which is not enough to, I passed the class, but I did not pass the exam, so to speak. It was hard, and it was a hard class to understand, especially, when I'd never taken what would be considered a college-type level class. Right. So it was hard, and that was the first class also where I had to get up and talk in front of people, and that was distressing, right? You know? And because, of course, you're a freshman, you're bottom of the totem pole, you're scared, you're not sure yourself.
Which it was with people, was it with the class above you as well, some? I remember some classes I had some that were, I had some that had mixed, like they were a year older than us, like they were, sophomores and I was a freshman.
That was like my computer classes and stuff like that, because those were more of elective type classes.
Ag classes were like that too, so they would go back and take an extra ag class, sustained FFA, so that they would have juniors and seniors and stuff like that come into a class that they just had somehow missed, and they'd come back and do that. Which that was how my junior year class at the greenhouse, I was a junior and I was in there with a bunch of freshman girls. Like that was who was in that class, and I was like sitting in the back corner. I'm like, I hate this class. I'm not interested in these flowers, or in greenhouse in general. I just was not. It wasn't my thing. I might have gotten into it eventually, and like once you got hands-on experiences, but that's what I was used to in FFA was hands-on experiences. And then I went to learning in a book. Like we had homework every week about what flower does this, what plant does this. And I was like, this is not my hands-on experience.
So I'd say in freshman year was probably one of my hardest years of high school, but going into sophomore year,
but not just because of the curriculum, but because of
socially.
Like it's all changed. Everything did.
Well, sophomore year, that was probably one of my best years. Second to only my senior year, but I had a bunch of classes that I liked, I was good at, and you know, I'm making A's, and I always had one B in a class. There was always a class I wasn't doing perfect in, you know, and whether that was math or English, it just depended. But you know, I loved history, so I took all the extra hard history classes, you know, if I could take them. And then in sophomore year, I took AP Psychology, and that was a class that I loved. And my favorite teacher taught it, Mr. Polson, you know, great guy. I'm still friends with him to this day. But he taught that class, and I fell in love with the subject, and I was like, man, you know, maybe that's what I want to do. I want to get out of high school, go to college, and get my psychology degree or something like that. But, you know, I loved the curriculum, and I had a great year that year. I did well in school, went on to junior year, more so, you know. That year, you know, I don't remember what we took. It was probably the ACT, right? I think that's when we took
junior year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I got a 25 on that, so I was doing good. I was learning. You know, I didn't study for the ACT. I never studied. Don't get me wrong. I'm just good at school. Like school,
and you took harder classes. And
hard.
I mean, I didn't go.
You know?
So like by the time I was junior, I was not caring. I was just breezing through and like trying to get through it. At this time, you were taking AP classes. You had more knowledge than I did, for sure.
Well, I wouldn't say knowledge, but it was just like...
You were more...
I'm good at school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can look at a multiple choice test and be like, I'm pretty sure that's the answer, you know, or I can recall, because, you know, my long-term memory is pretty good. I can read something or hear something in class, and then when it's on the test, I'm like, okay, yeah, I remember that. You know,
I can absorb the information, but it goes
multiple
away.
choice is easy. When you get to fill in the blank,
like if you put a test in front of me right now from high school, I probably would struggle if it was like a math test or something with certain algorithms that you had to learn.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to remember.
Math was always hard for me. You know, I would do good in the class because
once I learned
I
it,
use calculators.
Once I learned it, I was fine. But if I was to go back and try to do it now, I haven't kept that information. There's no way I could remember how to do it now.
That was my struggle, you know, going to college, because of course I took, you know, the readiness exam for getting to the sky, and of course the only one I didn't pass with 100% was the math one, and I had to go and I had just take the remedial class, which is terrible. But you know, at the same time, I definitely needed to relearn all that material because it was just over my head. But so I did good on the ACT. I was setting myself up to go to college, you know. And this whole time, I'm also like, I do want to go to the military, but in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be an officer. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go in the ROTC program, you know, get my degree, and then I'm going to go into the military. So I'm setting myself up for all this, you know. I'm looking forward to it. Senior year comes around, and a lot changes really fast.
Yeah.
So I'm taking 2 college classes my first semester, in Sociology 100, so Intro to Soc, and then I'm in World History 2. So I had one in the mornings and one in the afternoon. So if I didn't have class that day, I only had to come in for, you know, my 2 periods, or what do they call them, blocks or whatever.
You guys called them blocks. We called them periods.
Yeah.
We call them periods.
So we had like an hour and a half for each class. But
yours were longer. I think that's why they called them blocks for you guys, is that they were longer classes. Ours were 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, so ours were way longer. And we only took them in the semester, so we finished the whole class in the semester.
So, yeah.
But, so, where was I?
Your electives.
Oh, so I was only taking those 2 classes, so I had it pretty easy that first semester. So I'd come in, you know, if I had my classes, I would do it, and then if I didn't, you know, I'd just do my 2 classes and then go home. So, and then Fridays we
That's
never
pretty neat.
we never had the classes, you know. So Mondays and Wednesdays I think I had my my history class, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays I had my sociology class, and Fridays they didn't meet, so I just came in late and left early, so it was awesome.
See, I feel like I would have done better in that situation if I wasn't. I literally was, with periods, you had, I think 6 a day, and you had your lunch period, whatever. That was the thing, is like, no matter how good I did, I still had to go to every class. There was no like, hey, if you get this done, you guys can get done and go home. You guys can spend some extra time at home if you get your work done. There was never that. It was like, you were going to be there no matter what.
Yeah.
If you sat there for an hour and listened to music because you were ahead of the class, you still had to be there. And that was my thing, is I just did not want to be there.
You know,
So no matter what, I just was ready to go.
So freshman year we had the period system, right, where we took the same class all year long, and they were only 45 minutes long. But when we switched over to block periods in sophomore through senior year, we knocked out a lot more credits really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was set up to where I had plenty of credits going in to senior year. So I could have graduated early if I wanted to, but
Right.
I wanted to stay in high school and get a few extra classes done.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to the second semester, that's when I got my girlfriend at the time, that I actually had a pretty good relationship with. But I was taking easy classes during the day. I had PE and like real history where we watched movies and wrote about them.
Yeah.
Like that was super
This is cake, yeah.
Yeah, and then I finished out with a couple core classes that I hadn't taken before. Like I needed an extra science class or something like that I didn't have. But so pretty easy senior year. I was able to drive. I didn't have to have a job. Because of course my dad was just like, do good.
Yeah, focus on school. Mm-hmm.
Well, I meet the Marine Corps recruiter, right?
And it all changed.
Because I knew I wanted to be in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it. That's what I was driving for. You can talk to anybody I went, high school.
Even not in elementary. Even in high school, that was like, William's going to go to the military. William's going to go to the military.
Everybody knew I was doing that.
Yeah.
And so, but I always thought I was going to be in the Army. That's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm walking into the lunchroom one day, and at this time what I wanted to do in the military is I wanted to go into the EOD field, so the bomb techs.
Mm-hmm. You in the hurt locker.
Yeah. So, which is, nowadays, after being in the military, that's just a cringy movie to watch.
Right.
But, so I'm walking in there, and I see the Marine Corps recruiter, and he has an EOD badge on his uniform, on his blues. And I'm like, I'm going to go over there and talk to him, And we start talking, and he's like, well, why don't you come down and talk to me, see if you want to be in the Marines instead of the Army. He's like, if you're interested in EOD, we can talk about it more. And so, surely enough, I'm like, all right, well, let me ask my dad and this and that. So we go down there, and my dad comes with me, and we kind of talk over a little bit. And I tell him, this is first semester, so in the fall semester still, and it's about September. And he's seen that I did really well in the ASVAB, and so he's like, you can have any job in the Marine Corps you want. So I went down there and talked to him, and I was like, all right, well, I kind of want to wait and see how everything pans out, this semester, and then I'll call you after the new year and, tell you what my plan is for sure.
Right.
So new year rolls around, I call him, I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to be in the Marine Corps, I want to enlist, I want to go right after high school.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes me up to MEPS, which is a military entrance processing facility, so where you go to get all your physicals and your paperwork and all that stuff taken care of. And I go up there, and
I remember you going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a week in the first.
I don't know if nervous is the right word, or just it was rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was going.
Yeah, like I was officially on the path, know. And I was working out with, the recruiter and the other poolies at the time. I went up there to MEPS, and they disqualified me. I had braces on, and I was too skinny. I was 122 pounds at the time. That's ridiculous. I'm 5 feet 11 inches tall, They weren't going to take me even with a weight waiver. Mm-hmm. So my recruiter looks at me, and he's like, all right. He's like,
bulk up.
He's like, I'll take you up there again next weekend if you can put on the weight. And I was like, okay. So what I did is I drank 2 protein shakes a day, and I was eating protein bars in between meals, and I was eating huge meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was stuffing my face nonstop. And when I went up there that next Saturday, I weighed just enough to get a waiver. So I was 127 pounds on the scale. And that was the minimum I needed for the waiver.
Right.
So, oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm going to get to do this. And they said, as long as you get your braces taken off before you go to boot camp, you can go. So I signed, the paper saying I would do that. And
is it just because of the physicality of the test? Is the braces?
Or? Yeah. So boot camp, there's a possibility that something will happen to your face.
You get
you'll
hit or something,
and it'll tear through your lips or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just like, you get them taken off, and then you can put them back on whenever. So I was like, okay, that sounds good to me.
Did you, or did you finish out wearing them?
I never finished out wearing my braces.
Oh, so you just had them taken off and then done with them? Huh.
I just didn't care about it after a certain point because my teeth had moved back to where they were before I had braces.
Right.
So I was like, whatever, But it's not that big a deal. I don't have that bad of teeth.
Right.
But anyway, so when I signed the contract, because I was there, and they're like, all right, you're good. I told them what I wanted, what contract I wanted, but I didn't get to sign that one yet. I just signed the enlistment contract, so it's open still. So I could have gotten any job at the time if I hadn't, asked for my enlistment or my job that I wanted.
Right.
Job field is what the Marine Corps does. So they get me in there and they're like, all right, I need you to sign this contract. And I was like, okay, and this whole time, looking back on it, I was never really thinking about what I was doing.
Right.
It was never, like, I'm signing a contract. This is a commitment for 4 years of my life.
Yeah, that's the high school.
No backing out.
That's the way to think of it. That's why I thought of it as that's another 4 years of high school. Mm-hmm. Like it's another. That's how long it took me to get through high school. That's 4 years of my life.
Yeah.
Which probably didn't feel the same to you when you were there, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I had it in my head like I wanted it so bad I wasn't even thinking about it. I had all this knowledge about all this history, and I've seen all these movies and read all these books, and I was like, I want to do this, and I'm not thinking about what the repercussions are or anything. I was just so gung ho about it, and so I signed that contract, and once I signed it, it hit me. I was like, did I really think about this? But it was too late, I'd signed it, and then I go in there, I do the oath of enlistment, and I'm locked in. So, and for 8 months, for the rest of my senior year and right after high school, I'm a poolee. I'm going there and I'm working out with the recruiter and the other poolies.
This is your path. I mean, that's like you said.
I'm
this is
set on it, and I'm motivated to do it. I love it, and it's teaching me how to be in the right mindset and have a I guess a purpose.
Mm-hmm. And I remember coming over to your house after you had gotten through MEPS and you had passed, and you were on that path. I mean, you were eating protein shakes and still protein bars, and you were still trying to keep the weight up. You were still trying to push yourself.
I had to weigh more before I left.
Yeah, so it was still it was like a scary time for you because you're like, I still got to do it. I still got to keep going. And I'm like, dude.
This whole time we're still playing airsoft and we're going out there. So I'm exercising, doing airsoft,
on
and
top
I'm also
of the
exercising with the police and on my own. So I was, and I'll tell everybody this, I was more fit before I went in the military than after, I'd gotten in. So, and then that's a crazy thought to me.
I guess it's the drive, though. I mean, if you show them that you're pushing through it, that's what they want to see.
Yeah,
if you're
I really wanted
before you even got into it, you were already like fighting to be in it. So I'm sure that looked good for you, from a career standpoint and a job standpoint. Now, me being a manager, eventually at my job, you see the potential of people. Like if they're fighting for their job or they're fighting to be that person, that's a good trait to have. So I'm sure they've seen that even before you got there. Like he weighed this much, he failed, and then he come back weighing this much, and he still continued to bulk up and try.
There was progress, and
there was a fight in you.
I got my contract where the one I asked for, the logistics contract, and I signed that, and I was like, all right, now I'm going to get to go into the job field I want too. And it was so, it was like, man, I'm really going to do this. I was on the path, and growing up, as you're growing up through high school, you're like, I'm setting myself up for a certain way of life, and same with you. You're like, I want to get to the workforce, I want to make money, I want to own a house, and
I didn't realize how much I was handicapping myself too. Like now, looking back, yeah, I should be in the workforce, but at the same time, I should have thought about it more than just the next year of working. Like, I'm gonna work here. How much I was getting paid, I was like, oh, that's a lot. And then you get out into it and you start having bills come in, you're like, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
So like, oh, man. Maybe I should have been like, you know what, I do want to be in the workforce, but let's do it smart. You don't think that. I didn't. I was like, I'm just getting paid. I'm getting paid. I'll work my way up in any company and I'll make enough money in the long run. That's not the case. Some companies you can work for years, and if that's your only source of income, you're still going to struggle. You're still not going to be where you want to be. And I think that was my thing is, the company I went into during high school, my senior year, my first job was my only job for 3 years. And so for 3 years, I pushed myself in a job that by the end of it, I was still not getting paid what I got paid at my current job. So I've had 2 jobs, technically, 2 companies. I've transferred a bunch in my first job, like moving up the way I did. I had several promotions and several pay raises, but it was like a quarter, 50 cents. Like when you get to it, you're like, I'm still not getting paid that much. So when I started my new job, after that, my first job, I made more that first week than I did the job I worked at for 3 years. That to me made me realize it doesn't matter where you work, or it doesn't matter how long you work somewhere. It matters what you're doing in that job. So yeah, it does matter what company you work for, because you can work for 3 years and not make what you can make starting off somewhere else. And that was a game changer for me to where I'm at now. But yeah, in high school, I wanted to go to work, and I did. I never thought about college. My family never pushed me to go to college. My dad said I should have. Just like you said, your dad, like he said, focus on school. School's where you need to be. You need to push through school now. Don't wait and do it later like I did. That pushed me further away from it. I was like, I don't care. I just want to start working. And so him pressuring more on me made me rebel more. I think it's like when you put pressure on me, I start to push back. And I mean, it's a bad trait to have. Like I should take the advice and learn from it, which I do now. But in high school, you still got that I can do whatever I want mentality.
You're on top of the world.
Yeah, like nothing's gonna go wrong. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And then that first year after high school, you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, reality sets in, and you're like, what am I doing? And I don't know.
I don't think we should get into after high school yet, just because
there is
that starts a ball that rolls so fast to get us to where we are now.
Yeah.
And mentioning it, like I said, I worked for somewhere 3 years. You joined the military. Like we had
a lot did happen in between.
Right.
In those years.
And apart again. We
separated again. Another test on our.
But
friendship.
This time, there was a real friendship there.
Yeah, and we were able to communicate a little bit more. And,
we knew how to do communication, long distance communication, to keep in touch with each other. But we did not on a weekly basis or nothing. It was like, hey, I'm coming back.
Checking in,
Yeah, and that was you left, and at this point, it's like, oh damn, I have nobody to hang out with. So I actually, I had coworkers at the time that I become friends with, and Dylan, for sure, was my go-to friend outside of high school. But he was a coworker at the and he was my assistant manager when I was a store manager. So like we were co-workers, but we were also friends outside of work. We hung out outside of work, and we had the same interests. We were nerds. We were into magic. We were into I got him into airsoft, which we never played because we worked every Saturday. It was in our job. We worked every Saturday. We had a truck. As management, you had deliveries, and Saturday was a terrible day, which is your main day to play airsoft. So we never actually got to play. But he was my go-to buddy while you were gone. You have to have somebody to hang out with. I firmly believe that you need to have somebody that you need to be sociable. And for me to be in, like I said, we don't want to get too much into it, but to be in management sociably, that boosts your social skills so much. I mean, when somebody comes in and they have a problem, they're going to come talk to you. So you have to learn these skills that in high school, I had FFA and I had chairman skills, but I was still so nervous in those FFA meetings and stuff. Standing in front of just, 25, 30 people in an FFA meeting, I was nervous. Like I could have probably passed out if I thought about it hard enough. I was so nervous, sociably.
What I think set both of us up for success is, and I rehash this all the time when we talk about it, but airsoft. And airsoft, again, not only the basis of our friendship, but a lot of like our growing up and maturing based on what we were doing out there. Because like you said earlier, we were team leaders. In a sense that we coordinated everything. Yeah. We planned everything down to the minute detail. What game we were going to play,
if we had to cancel.
Modes. Yeah, if we had to cancel, weather, how long we were going to be out there.
If not enough guys were going to be there.
Yeah,
we were just going to fall through. Like, hey, everybody's going out for this holiday. And we're like, well, dang, okay, whatever. Because we didn't. We had family events, but we always put those to the side. We're like, hey, we're doing airsoft. We got these many people coming over. Yeah. We're like, and at least my parents were like, okay, we'll do our cookout this night or something. So like, y'all go play airsoft, but then you got to be back by 4:00 because we're going to start doing fireworks and a cookout or something for like 4th of July. So we always put our stuff on hold to make sure we had a place. And looking back, I mean, those kids, a lot of those guys, that was their hangout time. I mean, we had some weird guys out there, like, you know, people that I haven't talked to honestly since. But I hope that our time out there gave them a sense of fun and enjoyment out there. And I think there was moments when we pushed the team part more for us, when really we missed the side of just going out there and having fun.
Yeah.
I definitely think we got away from the fun part and got more to the managing part. Like,
and I'm saying it definitely helped us, you know, as leaders, you know. What, you know, we weren't conscious of it at the time, but
learning what to do and not to do.
We were up in front of people telling them, hey, this is how this is going to go.
We coordinated so much too. Like we had what was it, Dylan? What was it that had hand-to-hand combat training? Like he was into
like martial arts
and stuff. And we actually had him come out and he showed us
like how to do things safely and this and that.
Yeah.
And then we had, you know, different responsibilities on the team. Like Hunter, he really understood how guns, you could take the guns apart. And
he was like the technician.
Yeah, so he was able to fix guns on the fly while we were playing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, of course, me and you managed
team
everything.
Team captains. So like when we split into two teams, it was your team, my team, and that was the guys. More or less, it was your friend group from your school and my friend group that I had brought. So it was both of us was like, hey, I know these guys, we're gonna bring them out. Like, oh, I know these guys, we're bringing them out. And so most of the time, the teams were split up between schools. It was almost like a
school rivalry.
Yeah, yeah.
But
which we were all friends.
Yeah, we were all friends.
It was so cool. I remember, like I became friends with Anthony from your school a lot. You became friends with
Caleb and
it was so neat that different schools, different environments brought together and started other friendships, friendships from different backgrounds, but one thing in common: airsoft. That was just one thing brought us all together and stuck together until high school. And the reason we stopped was, like I said, once you get out of high school, that gets thrown out the window.
Life happened.
Yeah, your hobbies become things you can do after work, or when you're not tired enough to do something, or when it's you start having real relationships. You start having family matters happen. You know, once you start hitting that age, your parents are older. Your grandparents are older, your great-grandparents are older. Like, you start losing people and you start realizing that life is so much more than just, hey, I'm going to go and shoot at people on the weekends, you know?
Yeah. But, I mean...
And it did. That, for sure, got put on the back burner. Like, I was just like, you know what? I got to focus on my job. I got to focus on what am I going to do. At this time, I'm living with my grandparents, and I'm like, I don't want to live here forever. I want my own home. I want my own car. And you realize that there's so much more to do than to drop $400 on an airsoft gun. That's nuts. Like, in real life, like, that $400 could be a house payment. So then you're like, wow, how much money did I spend on this hobby? And now I have no goal or no mindset of what I'm going to do, which was completely different for you.
Well, I mean, you know, we had such a passion for it. It not only brought us together and helped us, you know, mature and all this stuff, but I mean, just looking back on all the memories and all that we had, it was just an incredible time. And I'm never gonna downplay anybody who plays airsoft, whether it's, you know, an adult
or any hobby,
kid, or any hobby. If you have a passion for it, get out there and do it. You know, keep on with it. You know, I say all the time, you know, I miss playing airsoft because it's such a good time. You know, as long as nobody gets their feelings hurt, you know, you're just out there, hey dude, you know, oh, you got me, or, you know, whatever. It's
an honorable sport too. Like,
you know,
you can't go out there and be like, I'm gonna be the best. If you get hit and don't, you know, mark your hits and stuff. You've got to make it
have some integrity, and, you know, just you're out there to have fun. You know, it is a competition, but it's not so serious that you got to get out there and lie and stuff. You're out there to have a good time, and
that was honestly
that's the best part about it.
We had a few moments when we had cheaters, and that turned me sour a lot about it. Once we got to that point where we were going to other places with people outside of our friend group that we had built, those 18, 20 guys that come on the weekends, you start getting into those situations where you're like, I'm pretty sure I hit that guy. And you start learning more about the sport.
Yeah.
That turned me away from it. And, like, instead of being a team, there was a moment where I was like, I just want to go and play by myself and enjoy it. And when I get tired of it, I'm driving home. Like, that was what right before we got out of high school, that was the point I was at. It's like, we had been trying to make this team thing work for so long that I was like, I'm not having fun no more.
And we were so focused on the team thing, it wasn't.
Yeah, it took the fun away from it for us. So by the end of high school, right before we got out of high school, I was ready to be like, look, I'm just going to go and play for fun. And I think we did.
At a certain point we did.
We started going to Hellhounds. We started going to Hellhounds, and a lot of the guys got out of Airsoft that we had playing there. And there was like a handful.
A lot of them couldn't come down and play with us.
No, you couldn't travel.
They were either too young or...
I remember my grandparents, we would have 2 or 3 guys stay the night before the Airsoft event on Saturday, and then they would ride with us because they had no transportation to get there. So you and I both were picking up people. Like I said, it was not fun for us in a lot of senses that we were trying to make it work. So we're like, oh, I can't make it unless I get a ride. So you would be like, hey, I got to go pick up so-and-so. I'm like, okay, cool. We got to pick up so-and-so on the way. We're going to stop and get something to eat for breakfast beforehand. So we were holding it together. Yeah, we were the glue.
We were, at some points, it was duct tape and, like spit. Like, we were holding it together.
And so many of the guys got there and they're like, guys, we just want to play. And we're like, great, but you don't realize how much we took to get all of you here to play. There was a time when we played, 20 degrees?
Oh yeah, snow on the ground, ice. I mean, we were freezing cold out there.
And everybody wanted to play, and my grandparents were like, I don't want to drive you guys there. I'm like, please just drive us there. Like, everybody's already there. Please get us there. And it was, we were just, please.
Begging. Begging.
And then, we drove down there, freezing. We didn't even play. Half the guns didn't even work because it was so cold.
It was so cold. We had to wait until it warmed up outside.
It turned into a
the snow had to melt a little bit, and we had to, we had started a fire.
I don't know if you have all the photos or not. Still,
I lost.
But of all of us, there's a couple around the campfire, and then the rest of us are sitting on that down tree.
Yeah.
And then we're just all sitting there eating lunch. And we're all in our gear. It's just
bundled up, we were sitting there hanging out.
But I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was so much fun.
Looking back on it, you talk to anybody who was there, and it was like, do you remember how cold it was?
Yeah.
Because we would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and start playing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how, dedicated to being out there that day we would. And we would play till 4 in the afternoon.
Because when you had 15 guys there, 20 guys there, what's the chances of getting them together again? So you're like, it was cold, but we're like, we've done playing this for a month or something.
Yeah.
We were like, this is the day we're going to do it. I don't care if it's snowing, raining, if somebody hurt, we are going to go play. And like I said, that took away a lot of the fun, but at the same time,
it also made a lot of good moments.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have those memories, those moments together. Changed, like you said, so sociably into it, and we got in front of people and spoke, and we made it memorable. It's just,
and I still get text messages from some of the guys that used to play with us, and they're like, man, I kind of miss that. I miss playing with you guys, and maybe we should do it again.
But it'll never be what we had.
Yeah, and it is because we're adults and we're older and we got a lot more going on. But it makes me feel bad in a sense. It's like, man, I really wish we could.
Yeah. I think anybody can be like, I wish I could go back. Yeah. I think anybody's like, everybody says high school's the worst years or whatever, but high school was bad for me.
Yeah,
I hated
the
high school
part, absolutely.
But the memories I've made after school with my friends between Xbox, Airsoft, and my family in general, those memories and moments made me who I am, for sure. That was the setting ground
that was
for who I became.
That was the foundation right there that we built upon.
Yeah. So you may hate high school, or you may love high school, but I think anybody can say those years developed you to be where you are now. Those were definitely the setting stones in place for your career path and your choices following.
And, looking back on it, I do think I look and I'm like, man, why was I like that? Or, I was so stupid back then. But at the same time, it's like,
it's all you knew.
Yeah, I didn't know any better. And I'm still happy about what we did when we did it.
Yeah.
And I cherish every time.
We got in fights too. I remember you and I both would butt heads in those moments too. So it wasn't all great for us. A lot of people didn't see what me and you went through. And I think there was even moments where you had events that we didn't come to. Because we were pissed off at each other because so-and-so was, they didn't like so-and-so, or they got into it, or there was a couple bad moments where it turned bad between me and you. Just because we butted heads. So we were team leaders. So like I had a mindset of how I wanted it to go, and you were making it more of a boot camp. Like I remember for sure you had the Marines. You were
I was
going
the
into
military
that.
mindset.
So you were trying to prep them for that. I think in a way you wanted them to experience what you were experiencing, and me, I brought I just want to go out and shoot at each other. Like I just want to have fun.
And you've always been the creative head. You've always been like, hey, well, why don't we try this, this, and this? I'm a very linear thinker.
I remember you used to draw up maps. You used to draw up scenarios. Like that was what you want to do. And I'm like, man, can we just start at this side of the trees and then start this? Like, hey, we're going to meet in the middle at some point. That's going to be the fun part. Like not trying to think it out.
And that's always how it ended up being. So I would do all this work and all this thinking for no reason.
Yeah, and then after you're like, it was a good day. And you're like, we had fun. That was like, and then you would have moments like, oh man, that was so cool when that happened. But it wasn't on a map. It wasn't drawn up. It wasn't thought about.
Happened.
Yeah.
It was like how when
we did the hostage situations. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we even had the photos. That was when we started the team. And everybody was like, well, we need to know what would you do in this situation. Who has a hostage situation in an airsoft event unless it's a MilSim event crafted for that scenario. An airsoft in general, or hellhounds, you go out and shoot each other. You're like a team death or free for all or capture the flag. Those you bring the Xbox part of Call of Duty
life.
To a real event. But the MilSim events are completely different. There's like a simulator event, and that was what you were looking for. So you're like,
that's what I like more, and you like more like just the the team death stuff. So, and I think
we got away from camping too. It turned into let's just all relax at home that night and then meet the next morning. Because when you were out there camping all night, I couldn't sleep on the ground. I hated camping on the ground, and I could have got a cot, but I didn't think about it at the time. It was sporadic. So like, I will put the tent here, and I'm like, there was a rock in my back or something. I did not sleep. I didn't sleep at all. It was cold and tense because the fire was far enough where you could go in and go to sleep without. Some guys didn't. Some guys slept for like 2 hours. Me, I was the guy that was like, I need 8 hours. Like before I go and play airsoft all morning, I need to be comfortable, like and well rested.
And I think the reason we did camping for it, is we always had like this idea of, we get more time to hang out, so let's just camp and then we'll hang out, all night and then into the morning and then we'll start playing.
Yeah.
But it ended up being such a hassle, and cleanup was crazy.
And trying to get everybody there too. You have so much in your packs for camping that, oh man, I forgot my pistol mag, or I forgot my CO2, and then you're like, well crap, now we can't play. We got to go back to so and so's house to get this or the. So we didn't have that. It was like everybody just focused on your guns, your gear for playing airsoft instead of bring some snacks or something for the day.
Yeah.
But don't worry about camping. Don't worry about the.
We did always make sure that people were, they had snacks. And water and stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember. I'm pretty sure your dad would bring waters and stuff down.
Oh yeah, he'd bring like a case of water. So.
So we were definitely. It definitely built us as a whole. Yeah, I mean that was definitely. Like I said, you don't have to love high school, but
enjoy the time you have with your friends and all that free time that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wish I could just take a week off for spring break again. Like work don't stop. I have vacation time, but that vacation time has to be used within a year's time, and you have to think about where you use it. Other than like, so and so's going to have this week off. Everybody's going to have this week off. You don't have that anymore. It's like you got to plan to have a night out anymore. So that's. I definitely think that's a good place to end it on, is because after high school,
we go into a different
life changes. And it's there's a lot of bad moments for me for sure.
Same.
And there's a lot of good memories too. Like it's crazy how every year of life throws something different at you so fast. Like you look back and like, do you remember that? Like I know I sit back and think about moments in my life after high school that I'm like, man. Why did I do that? I was so dumb.
Yeah,
and then there's moments like, I wish I could go back to that moment in that time and do something different. And you can't. And for sure, life after high school is when life just blows up for me. Like I don't know. It's like every time I turn around, I'm being somebody new. Like it's like there's a whole new chapter of life
I mean,
for me.
I think it just, you learn so much quicker as you're older because now you're paying attention to the lessons, And
you can't screw up. You're like,
there's a lot more riding now. Like you can screw up early in life, when you're still living with your family.
Somebody's taking care of you, but when you're on your own,
I mean, the stakes are higher, and So you got to pay attention to those lessons, you know.
Yeah.
And of
And
course, we're these young guys. We're young adults,
and we're still learning.
Still learning.
You know, it's like not like we're some knowledgeable 80-year-old that knows exactly everything about something. It's every day.
Every day we're exposed.
In between these podcasts, there's something that we've experienced, and then we'll get into that once we catch up with everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to just week to week talk about what we've experienced, what we've learned as adults, young adults.
Yeah.
So, we'll end it there, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one and got to hear a little bit more of our friendship and the funny times that we had.
And there's so many that we didn't mention.
Yeah,
and we'll bring up
days,
we'll bring up throughout the situations and scenarios and topics we talk about. We'll bring up things from the past, but this is letting you guys at least get some gaps filled in where we started and what brought us together, kept us together.
All right. Well, next time we'll be covering
after high school
to present. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.